Howdy there, folks. Welcome, and thank you for moseying on down to yet another episode of Podward State. I'm Matthew Paolizzi here once again.
I'm Grace Cunningham.
My name's Sam Brungo. Joining us for this episode, we have associate producer Jordan Mansberger. Jordan, how's it going?
I'm doing great, guys. Excited to be back on another episode of the pod.
Yeah, also joining us today, we have CEO of the Alumni Association here at Penn State, J Clifford. Talks kind of about, his experience, his journey, how he got here, and a little bit about what the Alumni Association offers to students and alumni.
Yeah, no, it was great talking with him. Definitely kind of precedent for me since, I'm graduating in a month. I never thought I'd ever be at this point. I thought college would last forever, but it goes so fast. So while at first, for some students out there, you might not think this conversation applies to you, it certainly does. And, it will in a few years. So pay attention. I think you'll learn a lot of awesome stuff from our friend Paul.
Without further ado, let's get into it.
Hi there, folks. We are joined by the CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, J Clifford. In fact, not Sean Clifford's dad. He is his own thing. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, me too. We got a lot of cool stuff we want to talk about. So first, before we dig into to some questions, could you just tell us a little bit about how you became this, I think the term is alumni advancement guru, and how you started on this career path?
Oh boy, this is the Grateful Dead sing about what a long, strange trip it is, and it's been a long, strange trip for me. I'm actually a Bloomsburg University graduate, class of '96. From there, I did a year of graduate work, and ultimately, my first job out of college was at James Madison University in their alumni office, and I caught the bug for serving alumni of institutions, activating them to have an impact on their alma mater for years after they've graduated, and have been lucky to be able to build a career from JMU to the University of Connecticut for 4 years, to East Carolina University in Greenville, North Carolina for 10 years. And then just before I came home to Pennsylvania, I was at the University of Oregon for 2 years. I say come home to Pennsylvania. I'm a native of the Hazleton area, grew up in Cunningham, Pennsylvania, and grew up in a Penn State family. Dad is class of '72 electrical engineering. And I thought, that was going to be the path for me. But I didn't get into University Park, right? I got accepted at Penn State Hazleton, which is a fine campus and a great path for many people. But I wanted to go away for school. And so that's how I ended up at Bloomsburg, but ultimately found my way back to dear old state. And I'm here as the CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association.
So you mentioned the other schools that you were at, obviously James Madison, East Carolina, Oregon, and a couple others. What were the similarities between those schools and what differentiated them from each other, not including Penn State?
Yeah, so the similarities of those schools, all of them were public institutions. All of them had a great alumni base that was loyal and really inspired by a number of things at their institutions, but in particular athletics. I was at UConn with Diana Taurasi. They won 4 national championships. Sue Bird was there all 4 years that I was there. So they were dominating not only women's basketball, but we won a men's national championship during that stretch and a soccer national championship, women's soccer national championship during that stretch. And then 10 years at East Carolina were probably the best decade of East Carolina football. They were in and out of the top 25, big upsets, went to the Liberty Bowl twice. And so obviously some great passion for the athletic departments. And then Oregon, and we all know about Oregon. I was there when Marcus Mariota won the Heisman Trophy, and they went to the national championship game and ultimately lost to the University of Oregon. But it's easy to compare those institutions to each other. It's difficult if your question is, how do they compare to Penn State? Because while Penn State prepares you for everything you're going to face throughout the rest of your life, nothing prepares you for Penn State. It is so, it is just a different animal. And so yeah, those schools don't compare to the passion that our alumni have here, or the involvement that our alumni have here. It's different.
Yeah, you're just an athletics good luck charm, Paul. Like seems like everywhere you go, they just have the best stretch of whatever sport, you know.
I've been lucky. I've been lucky. I thought I was well, my 2 years at James Madison, and then my first 2 years at ECU were rough years. They didn't make the NCAAs in football or anything at JMU, and then 2 losing seasons at East Carolina. Then Skip Holtz came on board and was our head coach there, and we had a great run. We had a great run. Look, the East Carolina is a special place in that not only do alumni get passionate about the athletics there, but in Eastern North Carolina, the university has such an impact because it's in so many ways the only option for a lot of Eastern North Carolinians in terms of higher education. They have a world-class health system there that has an impact throughout the 60 counties that they serve in North Carolina. And so it's definitely a special place, but again, nothing like Penn State.
So you received your bachelor's in history. Has that affected your outlook or career at all? And how has studying history shaped your life?
Yeah, so I went to college with a lot of history majors. I don't know any historians. So what I think the liberal arts degree prepares you to do is it prepares you to communicate well. It prepares you to be a good writer, a good analyzer of data, right? And being able to do some research. And ultimately, those were the big takeaways for me as a history/political science major at Bloomsburg. There's not a day that goes by, Grace, that I don't wish that I had maybe a minor in business or did something in marketing or public relations, but I don't think it's held me back. It's just I've had to do a lot of work outside of the classroom in those areas to grow and to learn the things that you need to know to run a 21st century nonprofit organization in the world's largest alumni association.
So you mentioned it a little bit, but your journey then from Oregon to Penn State, how did you end up at Penn State? And what was that process like really bringing you back home?
Yeah, it's interesting. When you're for positions like the ones that I was recruited for, there is actually a recruitment process. The university engaged with a headhunter that went out and looked for talent. And I was sitting at my desk in Eugene, and my phone rang, and it was the headhunter for the search. And I had just been in Eugene for 9 months at that time. And they asked, have you ever thought about working at Penn State? And my response was, well, only every day since I've been 7 years old. Like I said, we've been season ticket holders for 38 years for Penn State football. And it surprised them. They didn't realize that I had a family connection to Penn State. And so the conversation got serious there for a little bit. But ultimately, I left the phone call and said, hey, I've only been here for 9 months. It's not the right time for me to leave the University of Oregon. And I hung up the phone and immediately regretted it. Little did I know that 4 months later, my phone would ring again because the first search failed. And it was them asking if I would consider it. I wasn't going to let the opportunity pass for a second time. And so I threw my hat in the ring and was able to go through the process and be named the CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association. Nothing that I ever imagined would ever happen to me, right? I'm a Bloomsburg graduate. I had thought that they would probably go in the direction of hiring a Penn State or somebody with a Penn State degree. But I think it was a combination of kind of my passion for the university, my family connection that kind of drove that passion for so many years. And, the reputation that I had built in the industry as being able to mobilize alumni in action to support their alma maters. And so I was lucky enough to get the nod.
So you already compared some of the universities that you've worked for so far. How does Penn State compare to them?
Like I said, it's really hard to compare them just because of the size and scope of Penn State, right? We have 726,000 alumni. The closest that I've ever worked at to that was about 280,000 at the University of Oregon. So we're almost 3 times the size of the University of Oregon. We have 175,000 members of the Alumni Association. Oregon had 40,000 members of their Alumni Association. We have 40,000 more members than the number 2 dues paying alumni association in the world. We have 40,000 more members than the University of Michigan. And so there are schools in our conference that are similar size that don't compare to us. And then, I would say even culturally, Jordan, when you think of the University of Oregon, right, you think of, we're not going to wear the same uniforms twice in one season, or, and in their case, twice in one decade, right? They're wearing different combinations every game. Their tradition is change, right? If you're not constantly changing, then you're breaking from tradition. That's kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum as Penn State, right? Who has worn the same uniforms for 40 years, right? The pregame show is the same since when I was a kid, right? Pick up the beat and clap along to Fight on State has been said for every pregame show for the past 40 years. And so tradition is kind of is part of our heritage here at Penn State. So it's not to say that we're not innovative and that we don't change. It's just that change happens in a much different way. And so size, scope, culture at the university are just starkly different from the other places that I have been.
Yeah, I think more specifically, and you were talking a tiny bit about it, but what do you think separates Penn State alumni from others? I mean, I think one thing that I've heard a lot, and I would assume a lot of my fellow co-hosts have heard a lot, is comparing Penn State to like a cult, basically. Like I've heard that from everybody, like, oh, you joined the cult, huh? Are you feeling it yet or whatever?
Yeah.
So do you think that cult moniker is justified, is real in some way? And, maybe it's not, but do you think that, zealot mentality is a good thing?
Yeah, you guys are probably all on TikTok, right? Name something that's a cult that's not really a cult, and it's Penn State's the answer, right? I think it's cult not in the sense of the negative that you might associate with that word, but more with the positive, right? It's like the group of fans that follow the Grateful Dead and Fish all over the country, right? It's that kind of caravan that follows them along and that supports them in doing what they do. That's what it's like to be part of a Penn Stater, to be part of the Penn State community. It's not a degree that hangs on the wall. It's not a place that you spend 4 years. It becomes a lifestyle, right? It becomes something that is a lifelong connection, not just a 4-year connection. It's transformational, not transactional, right? You're not buying a degree from this place, right? You're transforming your life to help you be the person that you want to be, to get after your hopes and dreams and goals that you have after your time here at Penn State. So that's how I would describe it. I think it's just it just means something different here to graduate from Penn State than it does from a lot of other places. And I'm certainly biased, right? I graduated last year. I'm now official. I'm not a poser anymore. I have my degree in higher education. So I'm a fellow member of the College of Education, just like you, Matt. And so I'm certainly biased, but it's look, I felt like a Penn Stater long before I came to work here. And I think that's unique. I think it's also, if you're a Pennsylvanian, Penn State has an impact on this entire state, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the access to education that our Commonwealth campuses provide, whether it's the impact on the economy that we have from graduating as many graduates that we do, to just the massive operation that a $6 billion university is within the Commonwealth. It's there are, that you think of ag extension, right? You can't walk more than a mile and not run into a Penn Stater in the state of Pennsylvania. And so it kind of permeates the fabric of what it means to live in the state as well.
So what are some of the things that Penn State offers to students that other colleges don't? And why do you think that high school seniors should come to Penn State?
I don't think that we offer things that other colleges don't, but I think we offer everything that not all colleges do, right? Penn State is so big that you can come here and you can major in pretty much any major that's offered at any other institution. You can participate in extracurricular activities that are offered at almost any other institution, and at a world-class level, right? We have the largest homecoming parade in the history of higher education, right? We have the world's largest philanthropy. And so not only are you able to participate in things that you can be passionate about in a co-curricular way, but it's also the best in the world. And so if you're interested in something, you're going to be able to tap into that passion here at Penn State because it's offered and may not necessarily be offered everywhere else.
So every school has it, the Alumni Association, and that's more than just being a graduate. So can you explain to our listeners that don't know fully what the Alumni Association is and what it offers?
Ultimately, we are charged with keeping you connected throughout your lifelong relationship with Penn State. And the way I like to say it is, we connect you to what you love most about Penn State. If you think about your Penn State experience, right? And I ask you to list the top 10 things that you love about Penn State, nobody puts the Alumni Association in that top 10 list, right? As much as it breaks my heart that students aren't listing us there, they list a faculty member who had an impact on them. They list the time they spent running a podcast for Podward State, athletics, Thon, classmates. Those are the things that make the top 10 list. And so my mindset as the CEO of the Alumni Association is, I don't want to make people's top 10 lists. I want to connect them for the rest of their lives to the things that are in their top 10 list, right? So I want to make sure that I'm providing opportunities for you to participate with intercollegiate athletics after you graduate, that you have a Thon experience as a graduate of the institution, that you stay connected to your faculty and to your classmates. And so that's what we're striving to do every single day at the Penn State Alumni Association. And our 175,000 dues paying members give us the funding to be able to do that in a way that is different than a lot of other institutions. So we are so lucky. And look, this is not, Paul Clifford's the guy that you interact with on Twitter, but I have a team of 70 dedicated alumni professionals that I can't do this without. They are really the rock stars behind the scenes that do this all over the Commonwealth and all over the world. So yeah, that's how I would answer that. We're trying to keep you connected to what you love most about Penn State.
Yeah, so as a senior, I'm going to be graduating in May. I actually just bought my cap and gown a few days ago after.
Oh my God, it's getting real. It's getting real.
Yeah, it's getting real. I mean, it's weird because it's kind of lost a year and a half due to the pandemic and everything. So I've kind of been ready for it a little earlier than I think some people normally would be. But it's still kind of shocking, just how fast it went. But how can, seniors like me take advantage of what the Alumni Association can give? Like, what can we become a part of right away, in terms of getting involved or just, asking for help?
Absolutely. So I think the first thing that I would say is really take advantage of your first year of membership. We give the first year of membership in the Penn State Alumni Association to all of our new graduates is free. And so you'll get information about that, but really make that work for you. So the advice that I would give is wherever you move to, get immediately involved with your local alumni chapter. We have 300 affiliate groups around the world. About 140 of them are regionally based alumni chapters, alumni who get together and watch football games together. They network with each other. They do Thon fundraisers, right? The best way to continue to have all those great Happy Valley feels is to get involved right at the very beginning. And so, and look, if you're moving to a place that's not home and where you grew up with, right, they become your social support. They become your professional support. They help alumni get assimilated really to the new area that they're moving to a lot quicker. And it makes it a lot more welcoming because they know that there's a Penn Stater nearby to help them out.
What are some of your favorite Penn State memories?
Oh my goodness, some of my favorite Penn State memories. So I'll give you a couple. So first, Grace, I didn't realize this until I was much older. But my first memory was how my dad used Penn State to build family. Like I said, we've been season ticket holders for over 38 years now. And every fall Saturday for home games, we'd get in the car and we'd drive down to Happy Valley. It's 2 hours down to the game. It was 4 hours back after because you couldn't get out of the parking lot. And what I realized was that, yeah, we enjoyed the games. We talked about the games. We enjoyed the tailgating. But what I realized that my dad loved most was that drive time in the car with my brother and I and my sister and my mom. And really kind of catching up on what went on during the week. And that was kind of his time to kind of have a captive audience with us. And, it wasn't until I had kids that I was trying to think of ways that, okay, how do I get that with my kids? And that I realized that that's what my dad used Penn State for. And so that's certainly, those memories are strong for me. We've been able to do a couple special things with Thon over the years. The whiteout that we have sponsored now for the past 3 years. Seeing the Bryce Jordan Center transform from this like colorful rainbow of spirit and energy into a Beaver Stadium whiteout was so moving. And to know that me and my team played a small part in that was huge. 2016, from Grant Haley scooping and scoring after the blocked field goal against Ohio State to going out to the Rose Bowl and going to Indianapolis, being the Big Ten champions. That's a huge memory, but not for why you might think it is. It's a big memory, not because we were Big Ten champions and had the chance to go to the Rose Bowl, but I just remember after what the university went through from 2011 through 2016, and what that season meant to Penn State alumni, right? That there was doubt as if we would ever feel that kind of magic again, and to have that magic come back into Beaver Stadium and back into this community was really cool to be here and experience. And so those are just a couple that I could pick off the top of my head.
Paul, when you said that, I literally got goosebumps because, like I said, I grew up in State College, and I know this is probably for some people me beating a dead horse, but it's just like what you said about your family really was the same for me growing up. It was time to hang out with my dad. Since probably 2005, I've missed probably 5 games, and just every Saturday was time to hang out. And at the Big Ten championship, I just remember me, my dad, my brother, we were standing up in the nosebleeds, and just like when they won that game, we just like 3 grown men just stand there crying because it was so much more than a win in the Big Ten championship. So I appreciate what you just said.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of tears shed over the years. Tears of joy, kind of tears of family. And I think that's what, you asked me what's special about Penn State is that it's not Grace's experience or Sam's experience or Jordan or Matthew's, right? It's a shared experience, right? We get to share this with people that we care about, and that makes it even more special.
So kind of piggybacking a little bit off that last question, some of the coolest people you've met through your job, whether it was at Penn State or at other universities, who are some of the connections that you made that will either, starstruck you or, will just have a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, definitely have met some really cool people all along the way, and have definitely been starstruck, right? Joe Jonas was on the sidelines for Blue White a couple of years and got a chance to meet him. And we met Nick Jonas at the Rose Bowl. He was on the sidelines out there. But, I could go down the list of famous people. But the people that have been the most inspiring are kind of the ordinary Penn Staters that are doing extraordinary things in their lives, living a life of impact, right? Joe Paterno used to always say, go out and make an impact on the world. And Sandy Barber says that we're preparing our students for a lifetime of impact. I think of guys like Scott Shirley. Scott was a walk-on the Penn State football team. While he was playing football here, his dad was struck with a serious illness, and ultimately succumbed to that illness. But through that adversity, Scott was able to stand up Lift for Life, which is now on over 40 campuses. And Penn State participates with Lift for Life, and he's been able to stand up that as a nonprofit fighting rare disease. It's stories like that, and there are thousands of stories like that. Each Wednesday morning, I host what we call Coffee Hour with the Alumni Association, and I interview alumni who are doing some pretty cool things and having an impact on the world. It's the famous alumni are inspirational and a lot of fun to interact with, but no more fun than the person who's doing the kind of things that Scott Shirley's doing and having an impact on the world. We just had Jonathan Kramer on this past Wednesday. He was the sculptor of the We Are statue, right? Think about that. That We Are statue started off as a class gift, and today is one of the most iconic pieces of our campus, right? Besides the Lion Shrine, where else do people go to get their pictures taken on campus, right? They go to the We Are statue, they go to the wall down by Beaver Stadium. But to meet kind of our generation's Heinz Warnke, right? Heinz was the guy who sculpted the Lion Shrine. To be able to talk with Jonathan Kramer about, what's it like having one of the iconic landmarks on campus at your alma mater be a piece of art that you helped to sculpt. His response to that is as you would expect, really humble, really kind of quintessential Penn State, in that it was a team of people, right? Never taking credit for the work of an individual, and that it was a team of people that helped made it possible, and that it's not his sculpture, but it's our sculpture, right? And those are the ones that I get really excited about talking about.
So how has your job changed over the past year with the pandemic?
Whew, that's a big question. Everything changed, right? Almost a year and 2 weeks ago now, we got the, hey, take what you need from your office to be able to work at home, and let's get everybody home. And so we did that in a matter of 72 hours. We were able to get our 70 staff members at home, comfortable working from home. And the initial days and weeks, Grace, it was heartbreaking. It was learning things about your staff members that people shouldn't have to admit, right? I don't have internet at home. I don't have a home computer, right? And so we had to come up with solutions for those challenges. And I'm so grateful that we were able to do that. And then after the reality of what was happening around us, about a week or so set in, my team kind of snapped back into it. And we said, okay, what are the biggest challenges that we're facing? How has the world changed? And how can we organize in such a way to address and continue to pursue our mission and to remain relevant? And so what we did was we came up with 3, we call them prides, right? They were kind of fast action work teams that we put together to address the 3 biggest challenges that we had. The first was this new digital virtual environment. So that was our digital first pride that we formed. The second was what we called lifting up lions, right? With 15 to 17 to 20% reported unemployment rates on the horizon, we wanted to make sure that we were positioned to help Penn Staters through that time. And so lifting up lions was the second pride. And the third one was the class of 2020 pride, right? Their last month and a half on campus, has been disrupted. How do we make them feel as if they are as if they are valued, as if they are, trying to have as close to the experience as they possibly could have, as if, out during the pandemic as they would have had if we did not have the pandemic. And look, I'm so proud of how my team turned really quickly and responded in each of those three areas. We started coffee hour back in March. It was March 30th. March 31st was the first edition. And in that space, we started interviewing some student leaders. So we had it focused on 2020 class members and having them tell their story. It wasn't until the summer that we decided to shift and start featuring alumni on coffee hour. We moved all of our programs featuring faculty members to what we call our virtual speaker series, which happens every week. So we were starting to produce web shows, Zoom shows, whatever you want to call them, on 3 times a week throughout the pandemic. We did a football letter live show with Letterman during football season. So our shift to kind of digital first was something that made me really proud. Lifting Up Lions, we decided to make membership in the Alumni Association free for a 3-month period to anyone who asked for it. We did not want membership and that $50 rate to be a barrier for alumni being able to take advantage of career services as alumni. And so we waived the cost. We got about 3,000 members to sign on for those 3-month memberships. And so that was one piece of it. The second piece was we put together a website that brought resources from all over campus, all in a kind of a one-stop shopping place that alumni could access. Are you teaching kids at home? Here's some resources we have from the College of Education now to help you with that. Are you an owner of a small business, or are you an entrepreneur? Here's resources from the Launchbox or from the Small Business Institute. Are you displaced from work, or are you underemployed, right? Here's our career services. We put all of those mental health resources, everything we could from around campus, and put it in one place for alumni. We ultimately wanted alumni to feel as if their alumni association was their hand on the shoulder during a really tough time, and kind of helping them get back up on their feet. And then the third one was the class of 2020. And we continue to try to find ways to honor that class, whether it was the initial coffee hours that we did, to the ad that we ran in our rival newspapers print version. We ran an ad with all the names of the class of 2020 in there, to the huge banner that we put in Beaver Stadium this year with the names of the members of class of 2020 and 2021 in the S zone. And we still have plans to do more into the spring of 2022 to honor that class. So yeah, our world was flipped upside down, but our staff never stopped in their commitment to fulfill the mission of the Alumni Association.
What does a typical day for you look like working in the Alumni Association, maybe pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID and even during COVID. What I love most about my job is that no 2 days are the same. One day it might be preparing for an alumni council meeting, right? Working with our 108 dedicated volunteers that make up our governing board. The next day it might be, you might feel as if you're in a Madison Avenue PR firm coming up with a campaign on how to get alumni excited about Alumni Association membership and how are we going to appeal to that. To working with students and how do we make sure that students start to feel a part of the Alumni Association before they ever leave campus, right? The best way to get alumni involved early is to get them to see themselves as being part of the association before they ever leave the campus that they're studying at. And so, yeah, that's the quick answer, right? And the company I work for has a football and basketball team, which makes it exciting. We have unbelievable students that raise money to try to put an end to pediatric cancer. Just so many things that make my day-to-day so different every day that it keeps my attention span.
During all your years working with the Alumni Association, what sort of campaign or initiative are you most proud of?
some of our more successful campaigns have been around Cyber Monday. On Cyber Monday, we have, for the past 3 or 4 years, have cut the lifetime membership price in half. And that might sound, wow, that's super exciting, right? You gave everybody a discount. But what it really signifies to me is that, during that period, we make the Alumni Association more accessible to people. And we see Penn Staters really respond to that in a way that is almost like a vote of confidence for the work that we're doing at the Alumni Association. When we get 1,000 people to join the Alumni Association in 1 week, that says to me and my team, what you're doing is something that we value, and we value so much that we want to be a part of. I think of the months of work that we put in with Thon students and with our Lion Ambassador program to produce signature events, right? Certainly I've talked enough about Thon and what we do with those students, but you all were, many of our students who are freshmen at University Park get to experience Be a Part from the start, right? That takes months of planning by our Lion ambassadors to have that kind of first amazing Penn State experience, right? That first day that you're on campus and you're in Rec Hall and you get to see James Franklin and Guy Godowski and football and women's volleyball team come in, and you learn the fight songs and you learn the cheers, unless you're like Sam and you grew up here in town and already knew those things. It's being able to work and bring the students' visions to life that I get most excited about. Working with our volunteers, working with the students, doing things that are deemed impossible at other places and are just everyday kind of things here at Penn State.
Advice to seniors like me, right, who are graduating this year, entering the working world. For me, my path is maybe a little clearer than some other people's, but there's definitely, tons of different paths I could take right now. So for people like me, what advice would you want to give seniors who are graduating this year? It could be, alumni association focused, or it could be, just general advice that you've seen people succeed with.
Yeah, I said a little bit earlier, my first piece of advice would be to get involved early, right? Join your local chapter, get involved with your alumni society associated with your college or with your campus. Second piece of advice would be to, as soon as you possibly can, find a mentor, right? Find somebody who that you admire the work that they're doing and you see yourself being there someday, right? Engage that person in a mentoring relationship, and that will accelerate your growth as a person, as a professional, and your professional growth, right? You'll instead of having to find all the answers out yourself through experience and trial and error, a mentor helps you to be able to overcome some of those obstacles much easier than facing it by yourself, right? So I would encourage people to find a mentor. And then my last piece of advice would be to continue to hustle, right? Whatever you choose to do, make sure it's your passion, right? You're gonna end up doing it for the better part of the rest of your life, right? If you're not passionate about it, people can tell, right? You can tell who the posers are, who are just kind of going through life, right? Find something that you're passionate about and make that your life's work. And it's not just during the 8 hours that you're in the workplace, right? But make sure that you're reading about your craft to help you get better. Make sure that you continue to take these lessons, right? During work from home, I started a podcast myself. I'm the host of the Alumni Trending podcast, where I engage with people who do the work that I do at other institutions. We sit down and we have conversations and then distribute that for other alumni professionals to hear. So make a contribution to the industry that you work in, whether it's through writing about it, through podcasting about it, blogging about it. Continue to, just continue your hustle, right? And continue to get after it and be be passionate about the work that you're doing. So those are the three things that I would advise people: get involved, find a mentor, and really tap into your passion.
Awesome. And would you have any extra bits of advice or different pieces of advice that you would give to sort of other like general students, non-seniors who are still making their way through their journey at Penn State, whether it's freshmen who are just getting used to what college even is in the first place, or sophomores and juniors who are like maybe still figuring out what they want to do exactly, flip-flop between majors, or, you know, struggling finding a good internship or other opportunities? So do you have any extra piece of advice that you would give students who fall into those areas?
Yeah, sacrifice sleep, right? Give up on sleeping so that you can do as much as you possibly can here during this experience. It goes by so quickly, these 4 years, that if you sleep it away, right? And I use sleep as a metaphor, but if you play video games instead of joining an organization or getting involved with your college in terms of networking with alumni, right? Get involved in more than you can possibly handle. You won't ever regret doing too much in college. You will always regret not doing enough or not getting involved with something. So that's my one piece of advice. You can sleep when you're old like me, but I would sacrifice your sleep while you're a student and fill that with co-curricular activities, writing for Podward State, right? Starting your own podcast, going to a fencing match, right? Experiencing new things, walk through the Palmer Museum of Art, right? You have time to do those kind of things at this point in your life. Make sure you're taking advantage of all that.
Awesome, Paul. Just to wrap up here, how can people get involved in the Alumni Association, and how can folks stay in touch with you and stay connected with you?
Oh yeah, definitely join the Blue White Society, which is the student membership of the Alumni Association. $15. It's the cost of I guess it's the cost of a good pizza in State College, and it's maybe twice the cost of Canyon pizza, but cost of a good pizza. You can become member of the world's largest alumni association, get invited to all kinds of great activities that are designed to help students prepare for that next stage beyond. How they can get in touch with me: you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Paul for Penn State. I'm on Instagram at PJC for Penn State, on Snapchat, and all the social media platforms. You'll be able to find me and interact with me. If you're like Will, you'll get snarked at back and forth a little bit. And I love interacting with alumni and students on social media. And if you're doing some really cool things, we'll show you some Penn State love by sharing your accomplishments and your stories with everyone else. That's kind of what I try to do on social media, is kind of be a purveyor of positivity, right? And sharing all the great things that we do here at Penn State and that Penn Staters are doing every day.
Awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for coming on, giving us some advice, telling us what your job entails and what the Alumni Association is.
Hey, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you all. We are.
So that was CEO of the Alumni Association, Paul Clifford. It's another great episode of the pod. Thank you to Jordan for joining us again.
I'm Matt Paolizzi here once again.
I'm Grace Cunningham.
I'm Sam Brungo. Have a good week. Be safe. Podward State is an Onward State produced podcast. Onward State is an independent, student-run Penn State news site that works to generate honest conversation in the hopes of enriching the Penn State community. The show was founded by Matthew Ogden, Matthew Paolizzi, and Mitchell Stewart in 2019. The show is hosted by Samuel Brungo, Matthew Paolizzi, and Grace Cunningham. Executive producer, Samuel Brungo. Associate producers, Jordan Mansberger and Will Peckler. Editor, Samuel Brungo. Podward State releases episodes weekly and features discussions about all things Penn State, including sports, news, student life, and entertainment, which will be available on Spotify and YouTube.